Hi, I'm Rahul. I am a clinical psychologist. Uh, I've done my master's in philosophy in the subject of clinical psychology and my master's and bachelor's in psychology. I'm a RCI certified practitioner and I'm a member of different organizations running in the country for clinical psychologists. Today, we have came here with a particular topic of mental health, which means that the way we think, feel, and act, that is, our thoughts, our emotions, and the behavior thereafter, it constitutes emotional, psychological, and the social well being of an individual, which mostly determines how we are going to handle our stress, how we are going to relate to others, and also how we are going to make choices and decisions based on the events that are happening in our life. Um, in the field of mental health, there are many different professionals who are working in, such as psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist, and a counselor. This slide here shows you a brief understanding, gives you a brief understanding of what these psychiatrists come from a medical background and has specialization in I hope I'm audible. Mm, the clinical psych the clinical psychologist is someone who holds a master's or a doctoral degree in the field of clinical psychology, whereas a counselor is somebody who holds a degree in counseling. Uh, the psychiatrist who is qualified to diagnose a mental illness and also to prescribe medicines, whereas a clinical psychologist is somebody who is qualified to conduct the assessments, make the diagnosis, and also to conduct psychotherapy in a clinical setup. One thing here is really important to mention that a clinical psychologist and a counselor is not somebody who can prescribe drugs to you or medicines to you. It's a job. Moving ahead, a counselor is somebody who works as a counsel. A counsel is somebody who gives advice based on certain consultation. And there is a sharp difference between a clinical psychologist and a counselor, where the clinical psychologist go on of people with diagnosed medical illness, but a counselor can help anybody, a healthy person or a person with mental disability. So there are some early signs which tells us that that we might be in need of help, which constitutes many factors such as poor concentration, being easily distracted, worrying too much about certain things, finding it hard finding it hard to make decisions on a day-to-day basis, having low mood persistently, being overwhelmed by very small things, being tearful and having crying spells, having very very low energy and not being able to work up to the mark, feeling sleepless or not being able to have proper sleep, waking up tired, talking less, interacting less with their peers or their colleagues, avoiding social activities, staying aloof. Also, at times, it takes form of talking more, talking very fast, jumping from a topic to other, not being able to focus on one simple idea, rather jumping onto many things, or taking substances in the form which is not very healthy for us, rather in a binge pattern. Also, it constitutes irritability and short temperedness, aggression, not being able to maintain their relationships. So, there is a continuum, a mental health continuum. Most of the majority of the population, we lie in the center of this mental health, a moderate mental health, where we are able to function appropriately in our work environment, in our social environment, and in our day-to-day life. But at times when the negative situations comes in, or some sort of mental illness empowers us, or disempowers us, it creates of it creates a situation of absence of mental health that you can see on the on the left side of the continuum, where the help of somebody from outside is very much essential. Somebody like a psychiatrist, or a counseling psychologist, or a clinical psychologist. But if you see, there is another aspect to this continuum. The right side of this continuum tells you that being flourishing is another state, which is a state of growth, a place where we grow from wherever we are. We move from good to better and becoming the best of our own selves. So, a mental health professional is not somebody who will help you to get out of your problem situations only. Rather, the professional, will help you to grow as an individual and actualize your full potential. Here we can see a triad, a constitute of three major things that happens with all of us as an individual. Our thoughts that remains with us, which comes and go and affects how we feel and act. Our behaviors, that what we are doing based on how we are feeling and what our thoughts are. And the third aspect is the emotions, the way we feel, what we feel, and the things that affect us, how we act on them. You can see a bi-directional arrow between each of these components, which symbolize that they are interdependent and are affecting each other to and fro. So the thoughts will give rise to the behavior, and at the same time, behavior will take part in the formation of thoughts. Just in the same way, emotions give rise to some of our behaviors and also to some of our thoughts. And in the same manner, thoughts will be affecting our emotions and will be having a bidirectional influence from the emotions. And in the very same way, emotions and behaviors are connected, that they have a to and fro relation. Whenever behaviors, whatever behaviors that we do affect our emotions, and the emotions, the way we are feeling, affects how we behave in our environment. Here we have a cognitive model as proposed by some of the famous clinical psychologists and other professionals in the mental health, and they tell about how a mental health problem arise. It is called an ABC model. An ABC model is something which tells about the antecedent, the adversity that starts a negative event or a circumstance. For example, I did not get selected for the musical group. The belief that arise out of this situation, the thought is that I have a terrible voice. I'm never going to be a good singer. And these beliefs, these thoughts lead to certain consequences, which brings about a change in our feeling and our behavior. That is, we feel sad, we feel bad about our own self, we just stop singing, we stop going to the musical group. This model of mental illness comes out of the illusion of perfection, that I must do well and win others' approval, or else I'm no good. The next thing that gives rise to this illusion is that everybody must treat me fairly and kindly, and they should do exactly what I want them to, and always treat me with respect. And if they do not do this, they are not good people and they deserve to be punished. And the last thing is, I must always get what I want and when I want. In all of these three illusions, the very basic, the core is the feeling of must, that this should happen. Otherwise, there is no other option. This thought, this feeling of rigidity, having rigid thoughts, give rise to the problem that we are not flexible enough to change our own perception or manage our own emotions according to the situation. And here comes the role of a counselor, of a clinical psychologist, of a psychiatrist, who do not go on telling you what needs to be done. Instead, like a third party, an outside observer goes on listening to you, telling you back that what they have heard as an outsider, how they see your situation, and then slowly working with you to create a nice understanding of our own situations, where we are located, and how we can go about bringing out a beautiful thing out of the chaos. Um, okay, I would like to ask you here. We must have used Google Maps. In the chat box, let's just try to write what is the first thing that Google asks us. Uh, okay, I'll go on. So the first thing that a Google does is asking where you want to reach, your destination. The next thing that the Google map asks you is what is your current location? Where are you right now? The next thing that the Google goes on to ask is which mode of transport would you like to take to reach your destination? That is how you want to travel. The fourth thing that the Google does is it gives you multiple possible ways to travel and reach your destination. And at last, it travels with you at each step and giving you directions, so it is traveling with you. This Google Map example is very convenient and very appropriate for the situation of counseling and the psychotherapy sessions. A psychotherapy session, we go on locating or we go on finding out where we want to reach, our destination. What is it that we are expecting from ourselves and from the psychotherapy? Then we go on exploring where are we right now? What are we right now? How we are feeling as of now? What are our current behaviors? And what are the current thoughts? Then we go on discussing about multiple ways how we want to approach the current situation, which leads us to finding out multiple ways of reaching to the destination. And at the same time, the counselor, the psychotherapist, will be traveling with you on your journey to reach your destination. And like a Google map, it will go on finding alternative routes whenever you are stuck with any sort of challenges in your journey to your destination. These are very common memes that are often we can often find on social media or internet, that how going on or googling our own symptoms at times makes the situation very catastrophic and often lead us to anxiety. Often people go on looking out for their symptoms in singularity and end up with a diagnosis which really freaks them out. So here comes the job of a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, or a counselor to help the person understand what they are going through right now and what might possibly be the diagnosis or the illness that they are going through. Uh, One thing is very common to all sorts of psychotherapy or traditional help is that we go on taking small steps every day towards our destination, which brings about the change in the whole situation that we are in and we are dealing. Uh, and also the aspect of consistency, of taking consistent small steps, making small moves towards the actual destination that we are, because it is really hard to reach to the destination at just one go, because as in our life, the problem has grown over time. It has not just came in overnight. So with time, the problem has become a huge thing that we are not able to handle as of now. So we are going to take small changes which might bring about, we are going to take small steps in order to bring about a larger, a bigger change. um, I thank you all for your patient listening. I'm up for taking queries. You can go on raising your hand and we can take up the queries one by one.
Query has come in chat.
Yeah. So Anonymous is typing that, let's say I'm in the middle of that continuum. How could I move to the right side without any counseling? I relate it to physical health. If I'm fit and want to improve my health, I would join a gym or would play more sports. Is there any exercise or practice which I could follow? So, Anonymous, how I understood the situation is that you are absolutely fine. You are doing well with your life and you are able to manage your day to day activities. Uh, but it seems that you're concerned about the physical health and you want to improve. You are having a good physical health. It's just that you want to improve your physical health. And definitely you have joined a gym. Uh, so, so, one thing is that to remain consistent with your routine, which is moving you towards your destination, is the key. The with consistency, what I mean is doing the same thing over and over again. Here, it is not about the force with which we are engaging into the exercise or how much time that we are devoting. It's more about the consistent effort that we go on making each day towards our desired destination. So as you ask if there is any exercise or practice which I would follow, I would say the exercise is to be consistent in whatever that you're doing. And you'll definitely be able to improve your health, be it physical or mental health. Uh, the next question is that I try to concentrate on my studies, my mind fill up with useless thoughts, and I start talking to myself. What should I do? Anonymous, I can understand that how it might be very difficult while we are trying to concentrate and certain thoughts come up and we get engaged with those thoughts and not being able to focus on where we want. At times we try to push away with those thoughts, but what happens is they backfire. The amount of energy that we put to push away those thoughts, uh, with the same force they come in and they haunt us again, which hampers our studies. So what we can start doing is we can start accepting those thoughts. We can go on seeing them and observing them, how they are starting, what is it that is fueling them or making them larger. We can go on understanding our thoughts because they are the point of entry into our behavior and the things that we are feeling. First of all, we need to understand that nobody is really perfect and we cannot always do what we really want to. So there might be thoughts that will be affecting you, but at the same time, there are thoughts which are just free floating. It's we who is giving importance to a certain thought and making them larger. In your own day to day day-to-day life, you must have observed that how frequently the thoughts are changing. They go on from one to another and the third and the fourth. It is we who sit down and focus on one particular thought instead of just moving on to other thoughts. So, all we can do is for now is observing our thoughts, the pattern of thoughts, what is giving rise to those thoughts, and how we can go on finding a safe route from those thoughts, remaining unaffected and focusing on our studies. We can go on discussing in our own way. We can go on finding out our own ways in order to manage and regulate these thoughts. And there are many different exercises that we can do in order to regulate these thoughts, which are discussed and will be discussed by your counselor if you happen to have a therapy session. I'll move on to the next. Uh, I've figured out that I have some mental issues. How could I be benefit at my workplace? Okay, regarding workplace, there are many different things that come up when we go to a workplace and we try to see, or we try to find some sort of support and benefit from our colleagues and our office place, but at times it is difficult. So you can always go on discussing these issues with your psychiatrist, who can help you to get a certification for your illness, and can also help you to find a way in how to manage those things in a better way. Because for all the mental illnesses, we the our country, we do not have a set regulation that to what sort of compensation or to what sort of relief can be provided to a person. But there are surely ways in your own organization, and how your organization is seeing, your workplace is seeing those mental illnesses, and what is their way of going about. So you, your workplace, and your team of professionals, your mental health professionals, when they come together, they might find a suitable way in order to issue, or in order to tackle these issues of mental health at workplace. um, I guess there are if anybody would like to put up a follow-up question, I'm up for it, and we can go on discussing those things. Or what we can do is we can always go back to the website, have a private one-to-one session where we can go on discussing the problems on much larger detail, and we can always look forward and be hopeful towards finding a solution to the things. Uh, okay, I'll break here for a while, uh,
There is one question, Rahul. How do
and we can.
how do I know the therapist I am seeing is right fit for me? So how does a person understand that anyone they talk to is right for them? How do they assess the therapist?
Okay. Um, well, that's really important and an interesting part of the whole therapy, that how I am going to judge somebody is good for me or not. See, this brings in to a very basic idea that where we are and how we are feeling. If I am entering a therapy session with certain expectations, and those expectations are met, it means that we might be at the right place. But this might be a false opinion at the first go. So I would suggest that uh, having the feeling that yes, this person is listening to me, I am able to talk freely and able to express myself the way I want. We are making small uh, changes, or we are making taking small steps towards our destination, are are some of the markers that okay, you might be at the right place. But also at the same time, there may be issues where the changes are coming very slowly and you're not feeling up to the mark. So all these issues can be discussed out wi- within the session. And uh, always the what I suggest is to see where you are and where you want to reach. If this person is able to understand you well, is and you're having this resonance with yourself, that yes, I might be getting sorry, I might be getting something after into or being into the session, then you might go ahead. And and at the baseline, it is always your choice where to go. You can go on seeing multiple people, but it may bring in the amount of effort that you are putting in, the amount of time that you are putting in, which again will bring you down, that things are not moving ahead. So again, having a consistency is one of the factors, along with a sense of being understood, are some of the major points which you might keep in mind while going in for a session. Okay, there is another question in the chat box, that how to know of you are the one with toxic traits or mental issues, as it affects everybody around you. Hmm. So from this question, I'm understanding that somebody wants to know if they are the source of toxicity in their life, or they are having some worked upon.
Right, right. I think that's the question. And guys, if you want to unmute and talk also, it will be good. You can get your cross questions also. But yes, Rahul, you can take up the question.
So that's really interesting, that how to identify myself as a toxic person or somebody having toxic traits. See, this is a process of knowing our own self, getting the understanding, or enlarging our own scope of seeing our own self is a process. We go through certain steps of knowing ourselves. We go on analyzing our own thoughts, our own actions, and how we are feeling about the situations, is one way to go about understanding our own selves. Well, there are many other ways of doing this thing. Many psychologists and clinical psychologists and psychiatrists, they will be putting out a couple of assessments, personality assessments, doing multiple sort of tests, like asking you questions, presenting you with certain images that you have to respond to, and all sort of these ways will again be a method of knowing our own self, our traits, and how we can go about managing those, and regulating them as and how we want. Um, yeah. So one thing is very essential, is to understand our own self before making a move, because unless we are very sure that where we are standing right now, it will be a little difficult to move towards the place that we want to reach. So having a deep understanding, ability to analyze our own selves, and and having a constant feeling that yes, we can move, we can bring the change, is something at the base of the whole therapy process. How to work on anxiety issues. There are many different ways of dealing with the anxiety, but first we need to understand from where the anxiety is coming from, because just going on and hitting onto the anxiety issues is not the way to go, because we, until and unless we understand what are the major sources of anxiety, we might be throwing arrows in the wild air. So the first thing, if you ask me that how to work on your issues, the first thing is to understand where the anxiety is coming from. List them down. make them or bring them in front of your eyes in a very concrete form, that what are the sources of anxiety. Then we go on understanding our own emotions and our behavior while we are anxious. Okay, and once we know that what are the situations, how we are acting, we can go on devising multiple ways in order to deal with those anxieties. So, for example, just for an example, there are very basic relaxation activities that you might find on YouTube, or your the counselor or your therapist might be helping you out on walking you through those anxiety through those relaxation exercises, which you can do in the safety of your house or at a place where you feel good. So it constitutes multiple exercises such as breathing relaxation, such as muscle relaxation. Also, mindfulness activities are really picking up these days, and there are multiple programs that help you to be more mindful about your situation, which helps you to understand your own thoughts, behaviors, and emotions in a particular situation, and how you can deal with them consequently. So, the major thing is to go on seeing the source of those anxieties, understanding our own behaviors and our feeling related to those anxiety issues, and then finding out the best possible way that suits us in order to deal with those anxiety. Another thing came up is the best practice to improve our mental health. I'll say being mindful about our own selves, and to be very I'll say very honest to our own feelings and thoughts. Whatever thoughts that we are having, accept those things. Whatever feelings that we are having, don't push them away. Accept them the way they are, before putting up any sort of judgment if these thoughts are good or bad. Let's first accept that they are there. The second thing to improve our mental health is to practice more and more self care and self love practices. That is, taking care of our own self, identifying the practices, the habits which are keeping us back, and also at the same time, looking out for ways, multiple ways in which we can improve them. And at the baseline, it is to continuously try, find out the challenges, work upon work upon those challenges, and then again moving back to the action phase. So we go on planning, we go on taking the actions, we go on finding out the challenges that we faced uh, during executing our plans. Whatever challenges that we had, not stop just stopping on them, we again go back to the planning, make changes in our game plan, and then again trying them out. So the best practice to improve our mental health is to continuously engage yourself in the practice of trial and errors. We need to understand that error will always be there, and we as thinking machines can go on finding solutions and trying out those solutions, finding out what the challenges are, and then working for those challenges.
Any more questions? Anyone wants to raise a hand and talk to the counselor? Yeah, I think
How long will it take to improve my mental health? Um, okay. uh, I Okay, I'll try to answer that question, that how long will it take to improve my mental health, by going back to the example, the analogy of a Google map. It all depends that where our destination is, where we want to reach, what is the goal, and how we defined a good mental health and improved mental health. Then locating ourselves that where we are situated right now, what modes, what techniques are we going to do? Are we going to intensely work on the mental health, or are we going to take small steps towards the mental health? And thus we might be able to reach a conclusion that okay, this how long it might take. Generally in our psychotherapy practices, in our clinical practices, the psychotherapy is solution focused. We go on locating the issues, or we go on locating the areas where the change is required, and then we go on finding out the best possible way. This takes about 8 to 10 sessions of about 45 minutes to an hour each, and we expect certain changes which might come in. But the key is to consistently work even after the 8 sessions are completed, and always working at a self-paced manner. So yeah, any practices to move on with the difficulty. um Move on with the difficulty is very broad term. What sort of difficulty we are facing? Are we having low thoughts? Are we having anxious thoughts? Am I not able to focus? So the practice will be dependent on the sort of difficulty we have, because one shoe cannot fit every person. So we need to keep this in mind, that we need to personalize the whole process for us. And when I say it as a process, as a journey, it takes a little time. So we need to be a little patient when the for the change to come in, and we need to be consistent, and at the same time be mindful and keeping track of what is happening with us. Any practice to move on in life after facing issues in past, and how long is the process? Yeah. So some past life issues that we are facing right now, or we are some past life issues that are haunting us right now, might be really difficult situation that are triggered by multiple things in our environment or in our situation in our life. So the major idea around working with past life problems is to first understand that what is it that is really triggering these things, and where was I in the whole situation when that adversity was happening, and then slowly bringing in the acceptance that okay, where we are right now, how we are right now, how we are behaving, how we are feeling right now, being very mindful about our own selves, and then moving on with the acceptance and bringing about a change in the whole situation, right? For regularly assessing your situation, you can take up the questionnaires that are available. Yes, that's another way of understanding your own position. For now, I cannot go to counselor every time I see myself at the difficult place. How could I know decide the severity of my issue? Absolutely, that's really an important thing that has been pointed out, that you cannot always move to a counselor. So the whole process of therapy is to make you self-aware and self-dependent, instead of looking looking for a view, looking for an advice from the counselor or the psychotherapist. The process of psychotherapy will help you to understand your own self in a way where you do not require an outside help. Instead, you will be able to see your problems and find out possible solutions for your own self, instead of going out or seeking out help. So we will be helping our own self once we are through the process, or once we are through the practice of psychotherapy. And the whole issue and the idea is to make you more and more self-reliant, instead of looking out for somebody else's help. So yes, we can always go on planning our sessions in a way to make us more and more self-reliant. But in the first place, we might be needing a little help from outside in order to see how we can do that. There are questions
कैसा है
websites,
लोग 2 दिन
and
के थे तो पुणे में
we can,
हाँ
we can always see what is the most probable
कोथरूड में
thing
कुछ
that
लोग हैं कुछ लोग
we can
ब्रह्मांड
do
में
for ourselves,
अगर
which suits
के
us, and
पास है
something that we can.
कुछ का 20 है वहाँ वगैरह
Uh, any other query, any other thing
Yeah, I think there's
you'd
one.
like to.
If I stop counseling,
Oh yeah,
go back
we
to
will
work.
go back to the old phase. How many such sessions we must take? Uh, See, counseling as a process, as a practice, is something which will remain with you even if you have stopped going to the counseling sessions. So there will be skills that you might have picked up in your older sessions, in your previous sessions, and you can always start from there. You can always pick up from where you have left, because these skills, they come in as a form of training, and how you imbibe them, how you process those skills uh, is something very intangible, in the sense that it is not like a fruit that you bought today, and because you are not using it, it will go on perishing. So it is more like an intangible thing. It is more of a skill which is inside you, which you can pick up anytime that you feel like. And how many sessions we must take, see, the number of sessions, it is totally dependent on you and the counselor that you are working with. The method and the ways we go on discussing them all throughout. There is no hard and fast rule that you should take this much, but an appropriate sessions, the number of sessions is mostly 8 to 10 sessions that would be required in a particular traditional psychotherapy, and the changes you could see, that you can see coming up. But it also depends upon the sort of issues that we are facing. See, some of the issues, they require very intense psychotherapy, very intense support from your counselor, from your psychologist, and they might be taking multiple sessions in a week. Or there are some problems which do not take such intensive psychotherapy or counseling sessions. Rather, it require more of self practice. So you can have a session once in a week, or once in a 2 week, or once in a month, depending totally upon you, how you are feeling, what is your availability, what is your feasibility of going into a therapy session. And you can always discuss these things with your counselor, and you can always develop a plan, a personalized, individualized plan, that how it should be, and how you can go on doing it, and how you can manage those things. um, yeah, so we can always discuss we can plan a therapy for our own self, individualize a therapy, customize a therapy for our own selves by booking our sessions on the Mindspace website. And your counselors, I'm sure that my colleagues are helpful enough, and understanding and listening enough to understand, to come to an understanding of your problem, and also to be considerate that how we can go on deciding the best path. uh, how to decide when to hold on and when to move on. Wow. We are toward the end of it. Okay. So, how to decide when to hold on and when to move on? See, in our even in our counseling practices and our psychotherapy practices, uh, one of the basic ways of deciding if to hold on or move on is to write down the positives and the negatives of whatever you are for whatever you are making the decision for. So we go on making a decision matrix, as we say, a matrix in which you are going to weigh all the positives and the negatives, and then coming to the conclusion and deciding if it is worth it to be in that situation, to be in that event, or to hold on or not. So it is a very basic and a very simple exercise that you can do with your counselor, who will be helping you in order to think about these situations. And also they'll be helping you and making in making the right decision. But at the end, at the baseline, it is your decision, because you are the driver of your life. It's nobody else's job to walk down your path. The Google will be telling you how to reach the place, what all possible ways, but it is you who is going to take those steps, not your counselor, not anybody else. Yeah. um, Yes, so we are moving towards the end of our session. It's almost 50 minutes now that we are in. I would request my team to see if we have any more questions, or if people want to uh, how to move on after making a difficult decision. Okay. Again, so being on that path of making the change or bringing the change is to continuously remind ourselves that where we want to reach. Because as I can understand that there are situations, there are difficult and challenging situations which come in our way while we are making a move. And once these issues, these challenges comes up, our focus, we tend to lose our focus that where we want to. We go on experiencing low mood, that, oh, I'm not able to achieve the thing that I want to. But it is very efficient and also very helpful if we go on revising for our own selves that where we want to go, what is our destination, and accepting the challenges as a part of the journey. There might be things which will come up in the challenge during the process of reaching to your destination, or wherever you want to, or towards the decision that you have taken. uh, and we need to be very consistently working towards those challenges as well. So those difficult situations, yes, there will be difficult situations at the onset itself. Let's accept the fact that I am going to make a difficult decision, and there will come challenges. Instead of expecting on the onset that the path will be very smooth, that might lead us to uh, to feeling to having a feeling of failure. So at the onset, while we are starting our journey, let's talk to ourselves in this way, that yes, there might come challenges, but at the same time, I have the support of my own self, my counselor, my well wishers, and I will be able to overcome these challenges, and will be able to move through or maneuver throughout those challenges. And also reminding yourself about the about your whole game plan, that where we want to reach and where we are today, and whatever steps that we have taken, whatever gradual improvement that we have made. So continuously reminding yourself of those changes that you have already brought into. Yeah. Okay. So I think my team is keeping up with the time, and it's almost an hour of us talking, and we will be closing the session. Thanks to everyone for joining in. I hope I was able to provide a little information about mental health. I was able to answer to a little extent whatever queries came up. I hope this might help you to decide in if you really want to go in for therapy or a counseling session or not. And I hope you have a really nice day, and you do good in your life. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Rahul, for taking this time. I hope we are able to answer a lot of queries today. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Uh, Thanks a lot for everyone for coming in. We will be having more of these sessions in the future. I hope to see you again. Take care. Have a nice day.
Bye bye. Thank you.